Alrighty, it is time to talk about these latest documents, or at least one document, and a response that the docket on YouTube received from the state attorney. This is the case of Stephen Stearns. Stephen Stearns is a trip. We're talking about his recently filed motion on December 18th, 2024, and the reasons why he might have had his lawyer file this motion. And let's talk about the response from the state attorney in Florida to the docket about where they are in the process of releasing more information to us. So first of all, I'm thinking Stephen Stearns is a piece of work. That's what I'm saying to myself when I was reading this defendant's motion to modify jury instructions regarding the defendant's burden of proof. So it was filed this past week, and I've been reading it, going over it, trying to interpret it. I want to talk about it just in layman's terms. Let's see what we can figure out through all this legalese. You know, I'm not a lawyer, so I have to Google so many things and try and understand what they're saying. Stephen Stearns had his lawyers file this Hail Mary of a motion, hoping it'll get the jury to reject the death penalty. Will it work? Or won't it? It could go either way. Basically, Stearns is trying to save his own skin from that deadly injection, that deadly shot. According to the Florida Department of Corrections, Florida administers executions by lethal injection or electric chair at the execution chamber located at Florida State Prison. The three-legged electric chair was constructed from oak by Department of Corrections personnel in 1998, wow, that's the year I got married, and was installed at Florida State Prison in Rayford in 1999. So Stephen doesn't want to be one of those Floridians put to death. But was he thinking about life and death when he was allegedly taking Maddie's life? The life of Madeline Soto, his 13-year-old would-be stepdaughter. He doesn't deserve that honor. He was never her stepfather, but sometimes that's the way she's referred to by him or in these documents, or even by his own ex on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jennifer Soto, the mother of Madeline Soto. The Tallahassee Democrat says that executions in Florida did drop in number in 2024, this year. However, a number of new death sentences lead the nation. So even though Florida carried out only one execution this year, down sharply from the 6 executions in 2023, we don't know if Stephen Stearns will end up being one of those future executions, and that's what he's fighting hard to avoid. And I'm asking myself, is he fighting so hard to avoid it that he will end up flipping on Jennifer Soto? Let's talk about all of this. There was one person who died by lethal injection in August this year at Florida State Prison. Now, it took him 30 years to be executed, so people can spend many decades on death row. 30 years after his crime, a man named Loran Cole, he was executed at Florida State Prison for the 1994 murder of John Edwards. John Edwards was an 18-year-old Florida State student. That's where Ted Bundy carried out a lot of his crimes. Florida State University, that's in Tallahassee, Florida. I know the school well because I graduated from Florida A&M University, and parts of our campuses almost even touched. That's how close Florida State University and Florida A&M University are. But this guy, Cole, this Cole guy who just got executed, took him 30 years, but since he took the life of an 18-year-old Florida State University student, I'm thinking Stearns is probably looking at this stuff like, uh-oh, Florida just executed this guy for killing a young person. What's in it for me? I better put in as many Hail Mary motions as I can to avoid the same fate. So this is what Stearns' attorneys wrote in sort of clunky language. Maybe they're busy rushing. Quote, "It is the defendant's burden to prove that one or more mitigating circumstances exist. Mitigating circumstances and need not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt." I think they meant to leave that "and" out of there. I think they meant to say mitigating circumstances need not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And that means when considering factors that might lessen the severity of a crime, those are mitigating circumstances, the defendant does not have to prove these factors with an absolute certainty. A lower standard of proof is acceptable. Now, many creators were talking about this. The first time I saw it was the docket. He caught it first on the actual docket. Over there on the Osceola Clerk Court website, the YouTuber named the docket, downloaded it, went over this document, many other creators. I'm watching such great creators. I love watching, again, Gavin Fish, True Crime with Strategic Eyes, so many others, so many people. It would just be endless if I started naming everyone. But everyone's sort of pontificating about what this could mean. Now, I'm not going to repeat like, oh, who said what or who said this. I like taking in all points of view, but I don't want to quote anyone because I don't want to actually get wrong what they said. But there's a lot of great people out there discussing this. So I'm thinking, is Stearns first and foremost talking about his TBI, this traumatic brain injury defense? I started looking up and Googling that defense. I wonder how many people it's worked for. Now, we already heard Deborah Stearns, who is Stefan's mother, on the phone. She was complaining in a jail call to Stefan saying, this hospital, when you were a little boy and you got ran over by the truck and this guy backed over you twice or whatever, and we took you to a hospital. This hospital all these years later are claiming you were never a patient there. So they couldn't find any records. I wonder if they ended up finding records. I know it can be difficult. You know, this is probably 30 years ago they're talking. I'm sure it's difficult to get to a lot of computer records or even manual records in hospitals 30 years later. Will Stearns' lawyers just show up with the trust me bro defense? Like, he really was run over by a truck and it really did change his personality. You know, will they have all these people testifying on his behalf who knew Stefan years ago before the accident? Those who witnessed the accident, anyone they can find who can corroborate him being in a hospital, and then testify to the fact that he acted differently after the accident? That's interesting. Now, thanks to one of our favorite Reddit moderators, I love that Impossible Spray person over there on Reddit, we learned from Florida statutes that these are the actual mitigating circumstances. When it's like, what are they talking about? Well, there's a list of them. So mitigating circumstances under which a departure from the lowest permissible sentence is reasonably justified include but are not limited to these factors. So I'm thinking, which for the most part, most of these listed won't apply to Stearns, but I can see a couple, two, maybe three, that his lawyers may attempt to say, okay, we need to lessen the burden of proof for this. A, the first one, the departure results from a legitimate, uncoerced plea bargain. Now, as far as I know, as of today is Monday, December 23rd, Stearns has entered a not guilty plea as of this writing. It was seen in his written plea of not guilty and waiver agreement, filed on April 26, 2024. I haven't heard anything different about any type of plea deal or plea agreement. To me, letter A doesn't apply as of this filming. B, the defendant was an accomplice to the offense and was a relatively minor participant in the criminal conduct. Well, to me, I'd say Stearns was a pretty major player in this conduct. At least for the CSAM case, we know images and videos of Madeline Soto, along with the video evidence of him moving her body to the trunk, makes him a major participant in the criminal conduct. Unless, now, as for the capital murder case, unless he's trying to flip it, and if he eventually shifts or tries to shift any blame onto Jen Soto, we heard Stefan start to go down that road just a tad when he told his parents, well, I didn't start it. Now that sounds like the start of a blame against Jennifer to me. How far down that road did he go? And when will we hear the rest of the jail calls, anything else that might show him heading down that path? I always wondered, did Stearns and Jennifer make a pact? Like, okay, if they were in this together, if anything happened to Maddie where Jennifer was a part of it knowingly, or if she was the instigator even, and if they decided, well, look, you know, Stefan, you just take the fall for everything. It doesn't make sense for both of us to go down. Did any type of deal like that go on? And will Stefan let this time and his fear of the death penalty change his mind to tell a little bit more of the truth? We'll see. Letter C. The capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminal nature of the conduct, or to conform that conduct to the requirements of law, was substantially impaired. Ding, ding, ding. I think this is the one he's going to go for. This and the next one are probably the main ones Stearns will claim. His TBI, his mental state, his ADHD, his everything will make him unable to know just how wrong his conduct was. I'm thinking that'll be some kind of defense. Letter D. The defendant requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is unrelated to substance abuse or addiction, or for a physical disability, and the defendant is amenable to treatment. Here we go. This is the one I think Stearns will probably really fall on. This mitigating circumstance. This is why he shouldn't be exposed to the death penalty. This is why he doesn't deserve for his life to be taken by the state. I can hear almost his attorney saying this right now. This will be his claim. He will claim his TBI and his medications and his anxiety, ADHD, all those other ailments were his real problem. He has a mental disorder as a result of the TBI, and it caused all these other fallout disorders, and he'll take whatever treatment he can get in prison, even though he'd still just be in prison the rest of his life. I think he would do anything to just fight that death penalty, which is just outrageous to me because Maddie's gone. Letter E. The need for payment of restitution to the victim outweighs the need for a prison sentence. Well, no way. Maddie can't be paid restitution. Her life is already gone. Her life on this earth is ended. Like I always say, she's with Jesus now. So Stearns can't claim, oh, I gotta repay restitution to the victim. Letter F. The victim was an initiator, willing participant, aggressor, or provoker of the incident. I can't help but say, hell no, he better not say this. He better not even mention this. The victim being an initiator or willing participant. We've heard some sick people, some sick perpetrators of crimes, especially crimes against children, literally have outrageous claims of, oh, that child started it, that child came on to me. Loads of BS. We know that's not a factor. We know his attorneys are too smart to even bring this up. No. Letter G. The defendant acted under extreme duress or under the domination of another person. This is where I really started thinking, ding, ding, ding. If Stearns starts claiming that Jennifer was the one who started it all, will he go even further and say he was just under her power? So we only got that snippet. Well, I didn't start it. That's all Stearns would say to his parents in that brief call. And his dad called him on it. Well, you may not have started it, but you participated in it. And we didn't get much more as to what he was talking about. Was he definitely saying Jennifer started this whole thing? This misuse of Maddie? Or what? Or did she start the taking of Maddie's life? What exactly was he talking about? Who was he talking about? What was he talking about? Which specific incident? Who didn't start what? So this is where I'm thinking he might be leaning towards this as well. Not only the TBI, because you can claim, I guess, many mitigating circumstances, not saying it'll work, not saying they're true. I'm just giving a long think as to what Stephen Stearns' defense might be. He might say he acted under extreme duress or under Jennifer's domination. I mean, I don't think that would fly. Stranger things have happened though. Look at the O.J. Simpson case. I always say, you never know how a jury's going to react. You could be sitting here, we could be in our homes talking this over on YouTube, just seeming, level-headed people examining a case, but really strange things have happened. Very strange things. In some cases, I don't even want to get into, we'll talk about it maybe at the end, that Bryan Kohberger video I just put up talking about only the facts that the Pullman police had him listed in official police documents as a person of interest. Well, some people just really fangirl out over Bryan Kohberger. They lose rationality. I don't know if some of these people are getting into the way a person looks. They think Bryan Kohberger is handsome. I haven't even mentioned the Luigi guy in New York. I don't even want to go there with his fangirls and the way they're acting. Some of it is just like you're in Bizarro land. But with Stephen Stearns, thankfully, I haven't really seen Stearns have any fangirls. So, yeah. Anyway, I do believe he could claim he was under Jennifer's power. He was under her duress. He started to kind of go down that road. Well, I didn't start it. Sounds like he's blaming Jennifer. How far will he go? Will he flip totally on her? Letter H. Before the identity of the defendant was determined, the victim was substantially compensated. Nope, he can't claim that one. Letter I. The defendant cooperated with the state to resolve the current offense or any other offense. No, there's no resolution from Stearns for Maddie's death. I don't see how he could claim that. Letter J. The offense was committed in an unsophisticated manner and was an isolated incident for which the defendant has shown remorse. He could try to attach this one in terms of Maddie's death, in terms of it being an isolated incident, but the CSAM definitely wasn't an isolated incident. Images and videos over all these years. No, that's not isolated. But in terms of the unaliving, the way Stephen Stearns' mom, Deborah Stearns, on her interview with her husband on Hidden True Crime, the way Deborah Stearns said something about Stephen just walked outside to blow off steam and he came back and like Maddie was gone. He said something like that. It's kind of hard to hear her. And we didn't get many details as to what she was talking about. He might try and say, okay, whatever happened was committed in an unsophisticated manner. It was an isolated incident in terms of the unaliving. I don't know if that would fly too. And letter K, finally, at the time of the offense, the defendant was too young to appreciate the consequences of the offense. Nope, he was a 37-year-old man, so he can't even try to claim that as any kind of mitigating circumstance in Florida for these cases. So, if eligible and the jury has at least 8 votes for a death sentence, the recommendation must be for death. If there are less than 8 votes for death, the recommendation must be for LWOP, life without parole. If the jury's recommendation is for life without parole, the judge must impose that sentence. How ironic it is that Stephen is charged with taking Maddie's life, and now he's fighting so hard to save his own life. Some people might say these are standard things that a lawyer just puts in, tries to get off on technicality. Some people say, yeah, why even take this to trial? Some people just don't understand. Yes, just there's so much evidence against Stearns, at least in the CSAM cases. I don't really know all the evidence against him in the death capital case, but at least he was caught on video, moving her from the passenger seat to the trunk. There are things that aren't looking good for Stearns. So even the most level-headed juror sitting through the entire trial, it just doesn't look good. Isn't it ironic? He's fighting so hard to save his own life from the lethal injection or the chair or whatever they might use on him. And then Stephen Stearns had claimed to his dad, Chris Stearns, he had claimed he was planning to take his own life. Remember we did that Google Maps drive, Stephen going out to St. Cloud, leaving Maddie in the bamboo around Old Hickory Tree Road. And then most likely Stearns taking Jennifer's Nissan the very next day, traveling that same route, leaving her out there or doing whatever. But him telling his dad allegedly he was considering taking his own life, but he needed a weapon and that's why he went to Northport, presumably. He's full of lies. But my whole point is these legal actions don't align with that. Not that Stearns should have taken his own life. I mean, he should stand trial. But I find it ironic how sadly Maddie's life was taken away. And yeah, they're already laying the groundwork for him pretending like he has remorse. I mean, writing that Always poem, as I held you in my arms, my heart died with you. Even his mom, Deborah Stearns, saying in that interview something like, almost like he laid Maddie gently out there so she could be found. Like, oh my goodness, such loads of BS. It's like we want to say, just tell the truth at this point. Who knew what? Who did what to Maddie? How did her life end? Why? Did she fight back? What happened? Apparently he's not going that route. He's just playing games. He's playing the legal games to see, how can I at least get out of this? How can I avoid death row? Even if I have to live the rest of my life in prison, how can I avoid death row? And I don't know, his little poor woe is me voice on the calls and in the interviews, and talking about the crappiest birthday ever, and even talking about, oh, if I ever get out of here and I need these things, mom and dad, my driver's license, my whatever he was asking his parents for. And again, Chris Stearns being that voice of reason, his dad saying, what you're faced with, what you're charged with, basically, I don't know if you're going to get out of here. And Stearns, or one of them, saying his parents would be really old, they might not be around if he ever got out of there. And Stearns saying, well, I don't know if I could make it either. So he's playing this pitiful woe is me role. I don't know if I'm gonna make it, Dad. I thought about taking my life, Dad. I don't know this, Dad. I don't know that. And then on the other hand, his attorney is filing this thing saying, oh no, basically, let's not go to the death penalty. So he's saying one thing. That's why you always pay attention to a person's actions. Pay attention to a person's actions. A lot of times they mean more than a person's words. Stearns is spouting all this other stuff about, oh, in the Always poem, I would have died for you. And now it's like, yikes, file this motion so I won't have to die. Anyway, let me tell you about this response from the state attorney to the YouTuber The Docket, because I felt like I owe you guys an update from that latest crazy big estimate, that $11,250 to be exact, if I'm not incorrect, to get that 50,000 page whatever. I don't even know if that 11,000 was just for the spreadsheet download of Stephen Stearns' cell phone activity and descriptions, or if it was for the entire discovery they have thus far. It was confusing. The Docket and I were considering going in on just a small portion of it, the $450 invoice of it, just to see what they have. But this is the response he got. On Thursday, December 19th, 2024 at 12:21 p.m., the state attorney's office wrote to the Docket, good afternoon. I discussed the options available for reviewing and redacting the requested Excel spreadsheet with our IT department. We would need to convert the worksheets into PDF files to redact confidential or exempt information. So I understand that. I still don't know what's on this Excel spreadsheet, if it's just like descriptions of photographs, descriptions of Stephen Stearns' movements, his text messages. That's what I really wanted to see. Anyway, they continued. It will be difficult to preserve the format for worksheets with thousands of rows and numerous columns. Decreasing the size of the cells too much makes the text illegible, so they can't even read it if they squish it down too much. We could adjust the margins to fit as many cells on a page as possible, but it is likely that there will still be hundreds of pages of cells with raw phone data without a corresponding column header or row header. So they're saying this, transforming this Excel worksheet containing whatever huge amount of data into a PDF, squishing it down, you might lose some of the headings on the top and on the side. They continued, this request will require hundreds of hours of staff time and cost thousands of dollars to complete. In my opinion, any substantive information extracted from a defendant's cell phone is typically summarized in the investigative reports. Okay, yeah, we've gotten some substantive info, but I'm sure we don't have a lot of it. We've only had a brief snippet of Stephen's text message exchange the night before Maddie was reported missing. Other than that, we don't have a ton of Stephen's communications between Jennifer, between him and Maddie. We saw that text message Maddie sent to Stephen, like, we need these parent coins. So we have small snippets. We just don't have a lot of substance, I'd say. But anyway, the person wrote, I attached an invoice for 20 hours of staff time to start converting and reviewing the worksheets. Your request will be placed in the queue after we receive payment for the invoice. So once the Docket and I read that, we decided, I think this is too much trouble than what it's worth. Different agencies, I know in different states' attorneys' offices, they provide information in different ways. Maybe this case is just so huge. I get it. I know certain technical things take tons of time, believe me. And so at this point, we were thinking it probably isn't worth it to pay just $450 for this 20 hours of staff time so they can start converting this worksheet into a PDF so they can redact a bunch of stuff, which might be missing the column headers and the sides as well, the side headers. It just sounds confusing. So at this point, we're not going for this. Whatever this Excel document is, and everything until they can, I guess, figure out a better way to present it or release it. But in the meantime, they did end their email with this: "We are currently releasing records from invoices that were paid in June." So, and they said, "Thank you." So I went back and said, oh, I'm thinking to myself, what invoices were paid in June? What kind of information can we expect next? So I went through Stephen Stearns' cases and I saw there was a notice of supplemental discovery e-filed on June 24th, 2024 on the first-degree murder capital case. Page 1599, it says KIPD. I assume that means Kissimmee Police Department Electronic Incident Report Transmittal form from Detective Morris, and page 1600, a case supplemental report from Detective Morris. Now we already have a 64-page case supplemental report which shows Stearns's emails from jail to his parents. So we've already been through that. We've already seen the books he's received and a lot of redacted pages. So I'm not sure if that's part of what will be re-released. The problem is we've gotten information from a bunch of different entities. It's not really a problem, it just makes it confusing. Some we might get from Orange County, some from Kissimmee PD, some from the state's attorney's office. And so I don't know if some of it will overlap, some is not as redacted as others. We'll learn more information from some than others. So this could very well be some member of the press or YouTuber, I don't know who. I don't know if it was us. It's hard to keep track of who paid for what, and they don't really tell us necessarily unless you're first. They don't really tell you. They might say, okay, you're the first one to pay for this, I guess, and here's the stuff. Or if they might say someone else paid for this first, they'll get it first and then you'll get it. We just don't know. So people will see things coming through on the docket and they will request them. So this was e-filed June 24th. So I'm assuming whatever this Mark Morris information is, we'll see it perhaps being released soon. Now for the CSAM case, there was a notice of provision of discovery e-filed on June 11th, 2024. Now the list says this included defendant interviews, that's Stephen Stearns' interviews, Jennifer Soto's interviews, photos taken during the search warrant for the residence, and photos taken during the search warrant of the defendant. If I'm not mistaken, I think we've seen all of these, unless there are additional items that we just have not seen. Defendant interviews, we've seen Stephen Stearns, we've heard mostly, his interviews were mostly surreptitiously taken, in the first days he was arrested by Wednesday, February 28th, and we've seen that long video interview. So unless there's any more, and especially with Jennifer Soto, I feel like we've seen them all. So whatever the next batch being released is, perhaps, we can go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Perhaps there'll be something new in there, perhaps not. In the meantime, let's read Hebrews 10:19 through 22. Therefore, believers, since we have confidence and full freedom to enter the holy place, the place where God dwells, by means of the blood of Jesus, by this new and living way, which he initiated and opened for us through the veil, as in the Holy of Holies, that is, through his flesh. And since we have a great and wonderful priest, capital P, who rules over the house of God, let us approach God with a true and sincere heart in unqualified assurance of faith, having had our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Amen. Whew. I just want to, I'm grateful a lot of people aren't fangirling out over Stephen Stearns. I think what evidence has been presented right now disgusts most people, thankfully. It's just weird to me in certain cases, like the Bryan Kohberger case with the video I just put up, it was pretty clear. I simply said, this is the person who asked me to go get this FOIA. Many people ask me to follow up on cases, get FOIA, do this. Many people, I always give credit to the person who inspired me to get it. I got it from the Pullman Police Department. That's what happened that day, that night, October 10th. 2021. I never said it was Bryan Kohberger who did it. I only read the facts on the PDF that Pullman Police sent to me directly, saying they listed Bryan Kohberger along with that other guy, Jose, as two persons of interest. No one got arrested for it, and that was the body cam footage. It's just very strange. Some people are just like, you're a man-hater for saying this about Bryan Kohberger. And, I don't even think they watch the video. I don't even think they read the documents. Some people just have this visceral reaction when they think you're like, he's not going to get a fair trial because of this. Oh, my Lord. No, it's just... this is what happened. People said in other cases, there might have been other cases in Pennsylvania. They might have been like, okay, was Bryan, was he involved in this or not? It's only facts straight from police. Pullman Police Department in Washington. Anyone can FOIA the videos I got. Anyone can FOIA the PDFs I got. Some people just have a visceral reaction for some reason. For some cases, I don't want to touch Luigi's case at all in New York. People are fangirling out over him. And I get it. There are reasons. People might have their reasons for doing this, and of course I believe in innocent until proven guilty, but that does not mean, I don't know, some people take it to extremes. It just gets strange. To me, it's sad when anyone loses their life. I get it. People want justice, but we can't just swing so far in the other direction. The videos I put up, who knows what will happen with that? I mean, Bryan Kohberger's lawyer could use it in his defense to say, oh, maybe it wasn't Bryan Kohberger who killed the Idaho 4 students. Maybe it was that Jose guy. You never know. My job is to only, okay, I'm FOIAing this incident. Pullman police say there was an incident. They got a call on October 10th, 2021. Someone entered this girl's apartment wearing a mask. He had a knife. These are the body cam videos. It's sad the way some people react. I think some people even doubted the girls. I mean, it was just so sad. It's just very sad. Heaven forbid. Thank God that guy didn't cause any harm. And thank God people aren't being so staunch in Stephen Stern's defense. Like, how dare you talk about Stephen? I don't know. People are just weird. I'm sorry. Some people are just weird. It's like bizarro world sometimes. It's like opposite day in SpongeBob land. Sometimes you're like, what is happening? Sometimes I do think it is the great love of the body has grown cold, like they say during the last days. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm any fan of any person, but I do think of the guy who just lost his life on that street in New York. I think of, man, imagine his sons watching SNL this weekend and hearing people cheering for the guy who would have taken their dad's life. Just because they like the way this guy looks and what they perceive the justice he's fighting for. Okay. I mean, I want everyone to have adequate health care and everything, but there's got to be a line of right and wrong drawn, Anyway, God is love. Thank you for watching all this. Take care. We'll see what happens next in the Stearns case and many other cases. Bye.